We are watching Game Theory, FNAF, The Rise of Afton, Ultimate Timeline!
Hello Internet, welcome to Game Theory, and officially page 7 of the FNAF timeline script. Last time we covered the origins of Freddy's. When last we left him, Afton was thriving, the world of robotics opening his eyes to new and exciting ways of bringing characters to life. Bringing things to life, yeah, that was his core driving force, his passion. With life, there is inevitably death, something that Afton would become intimately familiar with. Onward to part 2, where things are about to get dark in a hurry. 1983, business was booming with 2 whole restaurant franchises running, Fredbear's Family Diner and the newly opened Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Together, William and Henry had been able to take the hybrid suit idea and make it into a reality. They called their new invention the Springlock suit, a human suit as designed by William that could become a freestanding Henry-style robot.
That's terrifying, and still, looking in Chica's mouth, why is there so many teeth? It's like a shark in there. It has like 2 or 3 layers of teeth. Do we think that's necessary? Do they actually have real suits where it can be an animatronic, but also can open up where a human can fit inside of it? Because that just seems like an accident waiting to happen.
With still new tech with kinks to work out, the rollout was limited, restricted only to the Fredbear's Family Diner location. All of this meant that William was busier than ever. He didn't have time to be a full-time parent, so he designed a nanny cam system where cameras and speakers were hidden throughout the neighborhood, as well as in his youngest son's favorite toy, Psychic Friend Fredbear. I mean,
throughout the neighborhood? Creep. I shouldn't be surprised that he's a creep.
Since cameras just weren't enough to raise a kid, he also left childcare duties to his eldest son, Michael. There was just one problem with that. Michael was far from the best babysitter. He tormented his younger brother by jump-scaring him with a foxy mask and constantly left him behind. William watched all of it from his cameras. Kids would be kids.
What? So you knew your older son was being a shit to your younger son, and you're just like, boys will be boys, you know? I got shit to do.
Michael's torment didn't stop. Bitter, angry thoughts would run through Michael's mind. Why did he have to be the one to take care of this whining crybaby all the time? He got even with his brother by playing the ultimate prank.
If you need to get back at anyone, get back at your dad for making you a babysitter instead of him fathering his own children.
But just as they were putting that small, squirming boy up to Fredbear's lips, the mouth snapped shut. The sensitive spring locks inside the body had been triggered by the boy's movements, and they'd immediately clamped down.
I thought in the last video, he said that it was triggered because the boy was crying and like the wet tears fucked up the mechanical artery. What did I just say? Messed up like the mechanical whatever. I'm not gonna even try figuring out the right word. Did I make myself look like an idiot because you know I can't talk? Yes.
But it was just a prank. It was meant to be funny.
I bet his brother felt like shit, though.
His consciousness began to fade. He could hear Michael's last words, a small and flimsy apology. But his father, Williams, through the voice of the Fredbear plush, promised to a dying son, "You're broken. I will put you back together."
Dad. If you just paid attention to him in the beginning, he wouldn't be broken. You wouldn't need to put him back together.
His young son's heart flatlined as the boy faded into the inky unknown of the afterlife. William's son would live again. It would just take time. In the aftermath of the tragedy, changes started happening around the restaurants. Kids were now required to wear security wristbands to prevent anyone from getting outside without parental permission. Any kid who approached the exit without permission would have to answer to the security puppet, a marionette.
That wasn't even the issue. It wasn't the kids escaping. It was the kids being to other kids and they're not being a parent.
Strings that could fly around on rails across the restaurant to stop kids
nightmare.
in their tracks. It was William's idea, inspired by Michael constantly leaving the restaurant without his brother. Bear's springlock failure, all the hybrid suits were getting retired. William would eventually bury the boy's small body in a remote location out in the woods. The death of this little boy sent the family spiraling. His wife, crippled with grief, was so distraught that all she could do was sit and watch.
Is this the first time they even mentioned their mom? For some reason, I forgot she was even a person.
His son Michael was far worse, complaining of seeing hallucinations of a golden bear standing outside of his window, and he was convinced that he was being haunted by the ghost of his brother. The suit's 3-toed feet. Some nights, Michael would even go so far as to break out of his room to check the gravesite and ensure that his brother was still there. As for William himself, he disappeared into his work and his drinks. Junior's, the local bar, wasn't far from his son's gravesite. Henry had stolen his idea for an animal-themed restaurant.
Okay, we're going back a little bit. He has a whole wife. Why was he having the older brother in cameras watched the young son. Where was the wife in all this? Why wasn't she watching the children? These parents have no one to blame but themselves right now. You gotta watch your kids, or they're gonna themselves by putting each other in animatronics.
Henry had humiliated him by buying him out of bankruptcy, and now there was his son. Henry had taken his son from him.
No! Responsibility! Accept it!
The bar turned him out and told him to go home. But William didn't go home. Drunk and angry, William raced back.
I'm sorry I'm pausing a lot. The lore behind this? I thought like he was getting this from a book, but he just showed what looked like a video game scene of us leaving the bar as Afton. I gotta get drunk in this game and angry and bitter that I didn't parent my own children and one died, and then I can get drunk in a bar? That's some weird deep shit that they didn't need to add, but they did.
Restaurant to give Henry a piece of his mind, only to find someone else waiting. Henry's daughter, Charlie, locked outside of the building. Some other problem to fix. But then Afton got an idea.
Parents do not watch their kids in this world.
This was his chance to get back at the man that had humiliated him all those years ago. Henry's robotic suit had killed his son. It was time for William to do some killing of his own.
No! He's gonna kill Henry's daughter. You know what he should have done instead? He should have went out there, been as nice as pie to Henry's daughter. Take her under his wing. You know what? Steal his daughter. Make that his daughter now. He wants to blame Henry for killing his son. He should have stole Henry's daughter and been like, she likes me better than you piece of shit. That's what he should have done. That would have been some real villainy. Villainy? Who cares? That would have been some crazy stuff. Then raise her to be evil like you. When she gets older, send her on Henry so she can kill Henry herself. That's some real villain stuff. The long game, not the short game.
While parties continued inside the walls of the pizzeria, William attacked Charlie in the back alley. It felt good.
Charlie.
He felt free. He would make Henry hurt like he hurts.
I love the passion game theory gives to
William
this.
became a killer. He dropped Charlie's lifeless body and drove home. Charlie's death would remain on the books as a random act of violence. And though Henry had suspicions about William, there was no physical evidence. In the weeks that followed, Fredbear's Family Diner would close for good.
I like that he puts the little sources. He may have done this in the last episode too. I'm sure he did.
Freddy Fazbear's was still open. All the equipment from the diner, including the old yellow suits and security puppet, would get retired to that location. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and the new cast of characters were a hit. Afton kept a low profile and buried himself in work and research, quickly reaching Henry's level of engineering and even surpassing him.
Still not watching his other son, you know, the one that didn't die yet.
Henry slowed down to grieve. Afton kept going, even starting his own company, Afton Robotics, for all those pet projects that were a little bit too experimental. The first of these experimental projects was a secret workshop under his house, a veritable bunker, which allowed him to work while still monitoring his kids via hidden security cameras. This was all to fulfill the promise that he had made to his son, right? I will put you back together.
The I will put you back together is in the game too? I assumed that was from a book. I think I really want to play these games.
He had to keep him in the house. He couldn't have another one of his kids wind up dead inside of an animatronic suit.
You could have solved all your problems if you weren't so obsessed with robots and you're actually like obsessed with being a good father.
Why not run a little experiment on Michael, the human mind? And what a fallible machine we as humans were. With just a few sounds, he had discovered that he could alter a person's vision. He could transform blank, smooth plastic robots into lumbering, twisted nightmares. Nightmares far scarier than he could create with actual materials. These would be his means of keeping his son Michael in the house where he belonged. Was it extreme? Maybe. But then again, this was the boy who had killed his son. He would make him sorry. And so Michael would grow up not only dealing with the memories of his own guilt, also facing literal nightmares, illusions.
I actually didn't know that his dad blamed him for his brother's death. That's fits in line with Afton, but it's so sad for this boy. And the mom, this absentee mom, what is she doing this whole time? Why her husband is unleashing these freaking monsters in the house? Does he do things to her too?
Michael would never forget these either. Years later, as a security guard, he would still draw
Michael.
pictures of them inside of his logbook. He was an absent father and a non-existent husband, leaving his wife cold and alone.
Why do you hide inside your walls?
What is this?
When there is music in my hall, no more joy and empty.
This is incredibly sad and creepy.
And despite her repeated demands that he leave his office, he refused, leaving her no choice but to leave.
She better have left with Michael. If she left Michael behind, she's also trash and I'm mad at her.
William wasn't done. He had gotten a taste of what it felt like to be unleashed, what it felt like to be free.
He liked the
Charlie's
killing.
murder had unlocked something in him. June 26th, 1985. Putting on the golden Bonnie suit, he lured children one by one to the back room of the pizzeria when no one was looking.
Oh my gosh, so I wonder like a part of him is happy that his son died because his son being killed triggered him to go commit his first kill. And now he's like, yes, I love this whole killing thing. Blech. Gotta keep doing it. And now we're luring children into the back pizzeria with promises of really good looking cookies and birthday cake.
For them with promises of cake and cookies. He told them that their dog had died. He would ask for help with homework. Susie was the first.
Why did he go for the plan of asking kids for help with homework? He's a whole adult man. Whole adult mans don't have homework.
Truly forget your first.
I was the first. I have seen everything.
But where to hide the bodies? They had to be stuffed. Stuffed inside of the suits. No one maintained those things anyway except for him. And so Susie would go into Chica.
But how are you going to get rid of the smell? I don't care what you say. Bodies will smell and you will smell it through those suits. Your whole entire operation is going to smell like cheese pizza, BO in decay.
And with each little life he snuffed out, his lies got bigger. Their house was burning. They're just being kidnapped. Until the last one where all pretense was off.
You're
he let
just
himself
being kidnapped.
Get violent.
Terrifying.
Wait for him after school, throw a bag over his head, hit him with a shovel, and drag him into the back of my car.
The body of Cassidy was far more bloody and broken than any of the others. With no more active animatronics left, he shoved the body into the one suit that remained backstage, yellow Fredbear, now broken and discolored with age. Newspapers reported on this disappearance. Police would even charge William with the crimes, but they couldn't convict him. They had no bodies, and his face had been hidden behind the mascot suit the entire time. So he walked away a free man. But Henry knew the truth.
What they had is dumbass cops. You search the whole entire Freddy Fazbear's and you don't look in the machines. You're supposed to be searching the whole entire thing, and you cannot tell me that those bodies didn't smell. At no point of this did they say that he, I don't know, designed something to put on this body to make it not smell. Like, we didn't smell proof it. We didn't put it in one of those smell proof bags. Nothing. I need someone to address the smell issue. These cops didn't do their job. They're bad cops.
He threw Afton out of the company and shuttered the doors to the old pizzeria. Henry would keep the franchise quiet for 2 years. He would implement an even more extreme security system in the form of new animatronics, toy animatronics. They were a new breed of robot with facial recognition abilities.
They're all tied into some kind of criminal database so they can detect a predator a mile away.
All the original animatronics, now withered with age, were moved to the new location. The year was 1987, and the new and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was making headlines in local newspapers. Headlines that just so happened to catch the attention of William Afton. His
Gonna send him into a rage
Henry
again.
was, yet again, trying to cut him out of the picture. Then he noticed the phone number to apply at the bottom of the article. Afton would go back. He would go back in the one place that they would least suspect him.
How did he get the job without Henry being like, bro, I know what your face looks like. You can't be a security guard here.
The Golden Rabbits. With the yellow security badge still on his chest, he used his crank to pull open the spring locks. It was time for Bonnie to give an encore performance. 5 more kids. He didn't know what felt better, getting back into the suit after 2 long years of waiting, or knowing how devastating this would be to Henry the next morning.
5 more kids? He's taking out 5 kids in a night?
And try to hide his crime this time just meant more blood on Henry's hands. He'd failed to protect the kids again. The restaurant had only been open for a few weeks, but William was sure that this would get it to close. The old withered animatronics, they had been wandering around the building, spurred on by the puppet. It was almost like those old robots were trying to save the kids. It was almost like they had been given life somehow. Did he have something to do with that? The following day, the news would report a security guard getting bitten by one of the animatronics.
He does have something to do with it because he killed the kids. But of course he'd be like, is this crazy work of genius of them floating around my idea? Did it come from my brain?
He had to learn more, but how? He needed to create his own pizzeria. Circus Baby's Pizza World. This would be the place where he could...
Circus Baby, what an awful name. I'm sorry if you love the character. I'm sure there's a character of Circus Baby. I'm sorry if you love that character. I'm just saying the name's creepy as heck.
He needed more kids, and he needed them alive. He designed a new breed of animatronic. Their endoskeletons fluid and flexible. He equipped them with sound lures that could mimic voices. They could isolate children. They could incapacitate and contain them with zero direct input from him. He was brilliant, far beyond the simple bars and wires of Henry's design. His creations, Freddy, Bonnie, Foxy, as well as 2 special ones. The first, Ballora, was an homage to the woman who left him. Now she would never leave him again. The second, the titular baby.
Oh, his wife? They didn't mention if his wife took Michael with her or she just left herself.
He was designed with his baby in mind, Elizabeth, his youngest child. She would always be...
I didn't even know he had another child. I thought he just had the 2 boys. Maybe in the last episode they mentioned a daughter. Mom better have left with Michael and Elizabeth.
Freddy's little girl, the one that listened to him, the one that obeyed until the day that she didn't.
Is he gonna kill his daughter, or is she accidentally gonna get killed by one of these animatronics?
The day before Circus Baby's Pizza World opened, she disobeyed. Left alone with Baby, she got too close. The animatronic ripped in half and swallowed her whole.
Why?
Scared, by the time Afton found her, it was too late. She was gone. But wait, as he sat there at the foot of the stage, he noticed that something was different. The eye color of the robot had changed. Baby had been built with blue eyes, but now they were emerald green, the same color as Elizabeth's. Was she in there? He had to know more.
Can someone explain why the animatronic just ate her out of nowhere, opened up and took her in? Was that Afton's intention all the time? He was building these robots to just like go and like swallow children, and that's why he kept telling his daughter not to get close to it, because he knew it was going to swallow her. But then of course he left her alone with it, and as a kid does, she didn't listen and got close to it.
Henry had clearly tried to reopen one final time with those old original animatronics from so long ago, but William's damage to the brand had been permanent. William repeatedly snuck into the old broken restaurant to lure the living animatronics to him, one by one dismantling them, robbing them of their endoskeletons. The metal had to be the secret. It had to contain the remnants of life itself.
He like killed these kids twice. He ripped apart their animatronic bodies.
He dragged the oversized robotic skeletons back to his underground workshop, back to where Circus Baby watched on with glowing, curious eyes. William melted the robotic parts down. Could he transfer this living metal to his own creations? He picked up a syringe and filled it with the molten metal and injected the goo into Funtime Freddy's, and suddenly the coils came to life. Like snakes writhing in a pile. What had once been cold, lifeless metal moved and jolted on its own. Except something was clearly wrong. The movements were erratic. They were violent, angry. Baby didn't act this way. She had been calm, collected.
To be fair, you didn't rip apart Baby's animatronic body and melt her down into goop and then put her on something else. Maybe if that happened to my animatronic body, I'd be pretty pissed too when you put me into a new animatronic, and I'd be acting pretty violent too.
Perhaps by mixing the souls and then portioning them out, he had created an incomplete beast. As he searched the old pizzeria one more time for any remaining scraps of metal, the ghosts attacked. He panicked as Cassidy approached. He would get into his suit like old times. He would regain his power over them.
I love how much William Afton loves himself.
The spring lock snapped into place. Maybe it was just fate coming to collect its due. His brain was suddenly filled with searing white-hot pain as hundreds of metallic pins and gears stabbed into his body from all sides.
Everywhere.
All he could do was collapse. It wouldn't end like this. His work was unfinished. Eventually, someone found him, a security guard. When he saw the animatronics torn apart in the middle of the party room floor, it caused him to file an immediate report of a break-in. Henry. Hope jumped in Afton's
Oh my
heart.
gosh.
Henry would see him. They were partners after all. He would be the one to help save him, to get him.
Yeah? Would you? You go in to your closed down restaurant and you see your ex-partner who you think may have been responsible for your daughter's death, and he is just on the floor bleeding out with your property spewed all around him. Are you gonna want to save this man? I mean, morally, yes, I would have to call the hospital because that would weigh so heavy on me if I saw someone dying and I didn't save them, if I could. But man, there would definitely be that part of me that's just like, I'll fucking finish the job myself.
Henry entered the secret room. His eyes fell on Afton sitting there in the pool of red, and Henry, saying nothing, turned and walked away.
This is just to inform all
Oh
employees
no,
that due to
William's
budget
hurt.
restrictions, the previously mentioned safe rooms are being sealed at most locations. Management also requests that this room not be mentioned to family, friends, or insurance representatives.
This is crazy that they're just sealing up the room. But also, they send out a notice to all their employees, like, if anyone asks about the secret room, don't talk about it. Don't talk to your friends about it. Don't talk to your family about it. Don't talk to the insurance company about it. I'd be like, I have to get out of this place as soon as possible because my bosses are seriously criminals.
Afton would sit hanging on for 30 years, trapped behind the walls. End of this part. This just felt like a really solid stopping point. The episode has gone on forever. That said, there are two things that I absolutely have to address. The first and biggest is the placement of sister location.
So Afton is stuck inside the safe room. Circus Baby Elizabeth is in a whole different location, just chilling there by herself, waiting for Dad to come back. Can she go break in there and get William if she chooses to?
To me, evidence in game seems to suggest that it was meant to come before the crying child's death in 1983. The biggest clue to this is that the crying child saw something. Remember what you saw is the phrase that's repeated over and over again by psychic friend Fredbear. But what did he see? Well, I think we can tell based on how the nightmare animatronics are visualized. They have mouths in their stomachs,
They
just
have so
like
many teeth
Baby
everywhere.
ripping in half at the waist to swallow a kid. There's also the empty girl's room, one presumably left behind by a dead sister.
So the sister died before.
It explains why he's scared, and more specifically why Afton wants him scared. He needs his kids to stay away from the animatronics. He doesn't want them getting too close because the last time one of his kids got too close to a robot, his daughter died.
And he also doesn't want to watch his kids himself. So he's like, let's inflict lasting trauma on them. So they're so afraid of these animatronics, they won't get near them.
That's why he has a nanny cam following the crying child everywhere, so he can keep tabs on his kids when they're out of his sight. The death of Elizabeth also gives William Afton extra motivation for killing. He's a grieving father. His daughter was taken away from him, so Charlie should die as well. We know that at least one of his children had to have died prior to Charlie's death, based on the mound of dirt that we see in Midnight Motorist. It also allows circus babies to open and close earlier in the timeline, which is how you wind up with Funtime Foxy appearing as Mangle in the FNAF 2 location. Elizabeth dying first has everything it needs to fit, except for the most important thing, the murder weapon. At this point, he just has no motive. And we know for a fact that the missing children's incident is 1985. So Elizabeth's death coming before any of those events just doesn't work.
This is so crazy. So there's not an actual answer, which is kind of cool. And there can be a bunch of theory videos like this. But the way he's putting things together, it's like, yeah, it does seem like it would work. But then they have this whole, like, why would he make this type of animatronic first?
That's why I placed it where I did in the narrative timeline. Afton's death here is also a bit tricky. We know that he returned to the FNAF 1 location to break down the original animatronics in order to harvest their remnant. We know that he melts down 5 things to become one thing. Candy Cadet makes that very clear. So the 5 things are the 5 endoskeletons from the various animatronics. That would be totally fine if it weren't for one huge problem. On his 5th visit to the pizzeria, Afton gets spring locked. So either the 5 becoming 1 starts in 1993, but then finishes 30 years later when he reemerges from the wall to add the last endoskeleton to his pile, or he's had himself some reason to return to the original location after harvesting all the stuff that he can. And with that, this next chapter comes to a close, thereby leaving us with 5 more games to cover and another 40 plus years of Fazbear history to recap.
We'll probably end up watching Game Theory FNAF. Burn them all! And then FNAF A Family Rebuilt, because this is super interesting. Is this series done? Are they gonna put out more games and books and stuff? Things could change. Oh, these videos are just so good, and there's so much lore in this. It's fucking crazy. I know the first game is like $5, I think, on Steam. I'll probably get that. I will either live stream it or I'll play it myself and just throw the gameplay up. Thanks for watching this with me. Bye.